today I have a deck profile for you for my Mega Manectric Garbodor Wobbuffet deck. Now, before I get into this, just to let you all know, it is Nationals weekend. It's going to be going for about a month or two, maybe. I think it goes into Worlds next month. Anyway, for the remainder of Nationals, or at least the days they are streaming, I'm not exactly going to be online, unless they are not streaming within my streaming times, of course. So, unfortunately, I won't be producing any content for those certain days. When it goes on to Monday and I guess Thursday, whenever the schedule starts for next weekend, I will continue streaming till then. Now that that's said, I'm going to get into the deck profile. It's not necessarily the most complex deck. As you can see, the main focus for this deck is actually to cancel out your opponent's abilities. Now, chances are, with this deck, you want to start up with a Wobbuffet if you're not aware of its ability. As long as this Pokemon is an active Pokemon, each Pokemon in play, in each player's hands, and in their discard pile has no abilities, except for Psychic Pokemon. So remember that, because that's actually very, very important. Because for matchups like Mew or Crobat, you are still susceptible to their abilities. So just be aware of that completely. Know your matchups, of course. Now we're going to get into Mega Manectric. As you are all aware of, maybe not, Turbo Bolt does 110 damage, and you can attach 2 basic energy from your discard pile and put it onto one of your Pokemon. The thing is, it's not necessarily optional whether or not you want to attach 2 energy. You have to attach 2 energy all the time if you have 2 or more to a Pokemon. If you have 1 or less, it'll attach just 1 to any of your bench Pokemon and only 1 of your bench Pokemon. And yeah, it's pretty handy. But also know what energy to attach to your bench Pokemon before you use Turbo Bolt, and then attach it to your other Pokemon, so on and so forth. Now, Mega Manectric stands alone pretty well by himself, but Mega Manectric himself is very strong and is quite a notable Pokemon on its own, even without being a Mega. Overrun does 20 damage to your opponent on one of their bench Pokemon, and Assault Laser, which is a very powerful move, but it can also be worked around if your opponent doesn't attach items per se. But yeah, Assault Laser, 60 damage. They have a tool, it's 60 more damage. So as you can see, that does at least 120 damage. That's pretty good. Chances are your opponent's going to be attaching tools if they know you're probably going to Mega Evolve, but if you're smart enough, or maybe you just want to keep one Manectric and not evolve it, you can simply keep it there and then use Assault Laser for whenever instance they just put on an item. You get 10 additional damage. It doesn't sound like much, but for things like Mew, perhaps, it works really well against those. Now, Garbodor, it's not really important what troubles you use, really. I use the tool drop. I don't really use the attack anyways, regardless, but you can if you'd like to. Garbodor, Garbotoxin, basically if this Pokemon has a tool attached to it, you cancel out every ability. And that goes for hand, discard pile, and so on and so forth in play. It's very powerful. Of course, it can be countered by simply using a Megaphone or any sort of tool energy discard cards, or simply just Lysandering it and take it out. But chances are, that's going to be your biggest threat, just basically Megaphone. So be sure to at least keep 1 item on this and keep 1 in your hand, just in case they do knock it off and you are just sitting there without an item. But yeah, as you can see, pretty straightforward. Just ability canceling. It's quite prevalent in this meta. Abilities, I mean. So ability canceling is going to help a lot. It's going to shut down Shamans and a bunch of other things, Verizon, and a bunch of other cards that basically just rely on their abilities as their winning point, as their winning condition, of course. Now, I run 1 Acrobike. Since entirely optional, you don't necessarily have to run an Acrobike. I do it for small acceleration. Not really useful. That's interchangeable, of course. You can put whatever you'd like in there. And I have 1 Pedal Compressor, simply so I can put in maybe a Lysander and a few energies if I ever need to. That way, once I put the energies into the discard pile, I can use the Turbo Volt and put 2 energies onto any of my Pokemon, let's say Wobbuffet or Manectric. And the cool thing about Manectric Manectric and Mega Manectric is that they require only one electric and a colorless. So if you wanted to, you could put an electric and a psychic, and you'll be good. Same with Wobbuffet actually. So you just need to put one psychic, and you could put an electric if you really wanted to. And we have computer search. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Just search out a card while discarding two of your other cards, so not too bad. I have the megaphone just in case my opponents attach a bunch of crazy items onto them. And then, if I ever have the opportunity, I can attach the head ringer. That works really well against Pokemon that have their Spirit Links and haven't evolved just yet. That way you can remove the Spirit Link, put on the head ringer, and slow them down a turn. So they don't have to have the leisure of evolving without passing the turn. So they will have to evolve and pass the turn unless they zero-sick their own tool off, I guess you can say. That works too. Which is the reason why I also have zero-sick in here, because it can discard a tool and a special energy, but I'm also getting ahead of myself. I'm going straight to the straight to the supporters, even though I'm still at this point. Anyway, Trainer's Mail, pretty cool card, really cool card. Helps in deck acceleration in general. You don't necessarily have to draw or pick anything you see out of what you see in Trainer's Mail, so that's entirely optional. You can just pass it if you don't like what you see, or if you have like a Sycamore in your hand and you don't want to discard it, and so on and so forth. But it's still good to have this just in case. It helps out a lot. 4 Ultra Ball, pretty self-explanatory. Discard 2 cards in your hand and just search out any Pokemon in your deck. 4 VS Seeker. I used to run 3 in this deck, but 4 helps out a lot. A lot. I might change some of my other decks to actually run more VS Seekers, but not too sure. Anyway, 1 Colress, just in case people's benches get really absurdly large, and it helps to either draw 10 cards if there's full benches, or potential of, let's say, 16 cards with Skyfield? It's a lot of cards. Lysander, for obvious reasons, basically can just grab out a Pokemon from your opponent's bench and just bring it to their active. If you want to knock things out, such as Shaman or Rayquaza, or just anything in general that you know they will not be able to switch out of, or will just faint instantly and just take 2 or 1 prize cards, whatever you need to do, this helps out a lot. It's a staple in any deck, really. 4 Ends, 4 Sycamore, the 1 zero-sick I was speaking of, that discards any tool or any special energy and anywhere in the field. It could be even your own if you really wanted to. Like, for instance, if someone head-ringered you, you can just use zero-sick and take it off. And if you had the proper cards in your hand, attach the Spirit Link, and then bam, like evolve straight up to a Mega Manectric. But also keep in mind, these head ringers only work on EXs. I made the mistake a long time ago of running these in decks, thinking that it would work on non-EXs, but that was a long time ago. Now, 3 Rough Seas, you're probably wondering why I don't run Silent Labs. Well, Silent Labs aren't really helpful in this deck. If you're going to start off with Wobbuffet, it helps out to cancel out every other ability aside from Psychics. The only really bad thing it's going to affect is, of course, Mew and Crobats and such. But I really would recommend Rough Seas over Silent Lab. I've tried Silent Lab, I didn't like it. It's also nice to have the Manectrics up to basically attack, and then you can retreat and start healing them in the back and attacking with your other Pokemon. It also helps to just attack with Wobbuffet as well, and then put these in the back. That way you can attack. Cool thing about these two, if you don't have a Float Stone on them, you can use 2 retreat costs, so you can put them back into your discard pile, and then if you really wanted to, go back into Mega Manectric, attack, and put them back onto Wobbuffet. It's a pretty cool system that it has. And 2 Float Stone. I would probably recommend 3, I just don't have 3. 3 would help out a lot, but unfortunately I'm just missing 1. So yeah, if you really wanted to, go ahead run 3. 2 will suffice too, of course. Just 3 is more recommended in my opinion. Alright, 3 Spirit Link. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Just put it onto Manectric, and you evolve without passing your turn. So that's pretty helpful, really helpful. 2 head ringers, as I explained earlier, you could put it onto any of your Pokemon EX, and basically it just means that their attacks cost 1 extra colorless more. So it would stall them a lot, and for potential Megas, it will stall them even further, since they can't evolve in the turn they'd like to, and not have the leisure of passing their turn. Not passing their turn, of course. I run 7 and 3 basic energies. When the Ancient Origins comes out and they bring out the new special lightning energy, I might put these in there because basically it'll just invalidate its own weakness, like just fighting type Pokemon in general, like Groudon. Then again, Groudon will still knock it out if it has the proper setup, but for other things, it helps out a lot, tremendously. And of course, 3 Psychic, just in case I need to put them onto Wobbuffet. I could run possibly 6 or 4, but either way works. Anyway, that was my deck profile. Thank you all for watching. You're all freaking fantastic. I will see you all later.